What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. We are joined alongside Jacob in Wisconsin. Came slide in here at the last second. We hit go live, come back up on screen, and there he is, man. How you doing, bud?
I'm all right. I had an okay day. It's very hot, very muggy here, but
All right.
besides that, it was good.
Kind of sticky out there, right? Sticky.
They're sticky.
All right. So, guys, we got a good little show for you tonight. We're going to hit on a couple cool topics. We're going to cover 2025 Packers Super Bowl contenders or bust. All right. You hear the term Super Bowl or bust, you think, okay, the chips are all in on the table. For me, it's not so much that, okay, if they don't win the Super Bowl, this was a complete failure. I'm just simply saying the window is open. There's no two ways about it. We'll also hit on why the Packers did not need to trade for and still don't need to trade for a superstar on defense. We'll hit all that and bring you some factual stuff, some numbers along the way. You guys know the deal here, though. Do that YouTube stuff for us. Hit that like button. Hit subscribe. If you're new here, hey, appreciate you making us a part of your evening. We go live pretty much daily. We've got post-game shows during the season. We got tailgate pre-game shows during the season as well. We have a blast over here. And like I said, if you like Packers content on the daily, you want in-depth analysis in terms of, hey, let's get to the bottom of what happened, why did it happen on a consistent basis, it's definitely the channel for you. We appreciate y'all joining us this evening. So make sure you subscribe. And, let's have some fun. Let's jump into it. First topic of the night here, 2025 Packers Super Bowl contenders or bust. The last couple of years, we've talked about this being the youngest team in the league, right? And some people use it as an excuse. Other people, say they don't have a snowball's chance in hell of winning the championship. I tend to lean a little more towards, hey, look, when you're the youngest team in the league, it's far more difficult to win the Super Bowl. Well, now here we are stepping into this year with a couple of key free agent signings, in my opinion. Well, actually, there was 4 different ones that made the roster a little bit older. And I feel like this is going to be as much a veteran roster as we've had in a while, with the addition of Aaron Banks. We're going to talk about all that. Nate Hobbs, another veteran. I love what Goody did, how he went out there and found a couple of guys that are veterans, but not over the hill, right? I think that's very, very important. But let's dive into the article here. Is Jordan Love a top 5 quarterback? Are the Packers the best young team? Wrong questions. The real one, after an aggressive offseason, is it Super Bowl or bust for Green Bay? The window is wide open. Let's break down why the Packers are legit contenders. Jacob, I know some people see this after an aggressive offseason. They go, what are you talking about? We weren't aggressive. Guys, average annual value, we spent more than anyone in free agency last I checked. Now, when you look into the guaranteed money and how we can get out of those contracts after 2 years, that's Goody being Goody, right? Covering the bases. I think people seen this offseason, Jacob, and they immediately thought, well, we didn't do anything. It's just because they disagreed with the signings that Goody made. The fact is, we went out and got 2 guys, whether we think they're going to be great or not, they are going to be starters on this team. And some people believe Mecole Hardman will be a starter with Christian Watson being out. Others believe Isaiah Simmons could take that third stackbacker spot, possibly the second one, depending on what happens with Quay Walker's contract as well. But I don't know if that makes sense or not, man, but this was an aggressive offseason, man. This was Goody going out and spending top dollar for 2 free agents.
Yeah, I agree with that. And like you said, I believe it's just certain fans that they didn't get their way, right? They didn't get a T. Higgins or like some splash type player where they really just thought, which again, Ryan had a great podcast. I don't remember if it was today or yesterday where he highlights just how AI and some of these specifically Facebook groups have gotten a little out of freaking control where they just like, dude, I mean, I'm talking about, and the worst part is that everybody's falling for it and they're getting into arguments in the comments over it. And, that's one of the misconceptions I think of the fans is that like, yeah, maybe we didn't go out and get like a quote unquote splash player, but I have a lot of hope for Nate Hobbs. I hope that Aaron Banks is the type of player that they paid him like he could be. And like you said, they structured these contracts in the type of way where it's not going to be, it's not a Deshaun Watson contract, right? Where they're going to be paying for the rest of eternity. And it was just immediately a complete kerfuffle. And like you said, I like some of the lower key older guys that they brought. I think Mecole Hardman could be one of the sneakiest free agent signings of the year. I mean, honestly, it's not too far to say that because that dude has just been doing nothing but being a consummate professional. bringing in kind of that veteran presence. And like you said, it is crazy too. I was just listening to an interview with Devontae Wyatt, and he was talking about how Kenny Clark is about to enter his 10th season, and he's still, I don't think he's turned 30 yet, which is insane.
That's crazy.
And we've got guys like Brooks and Wooden, and how all of a sudden that defensive line room all of a sudden is one of the more kind of seasoned vets groups. Obviously, we got new guys like Nazir and Brinson in there, but I do think that this year that, we've talked about how there's a window, there's a gap, a timeline of when the Packers can succeed. And I really think that this is one of those seasons where the window's cracked open as wide as it can be.
Yeah, let's go to the chat here. John Johnson says, we're going to be just fine on both sides of the ball. I completely agree. Deadfish says, Goody traded Ja's contract for Hobbs. That's really an accurate way of looking at it, right? You're freeing up some cap space. Now, we chose to absorb the entire cap penalty this year to just go ahead and kind of get everything wiped off the books for next year. But essentially, you're swapping Hobbs for Ja and freeing up some money. And when I say freeing up some money, it almost comes out as a push when you take into account Nate Hobbs' money there, right? Now, again, nobody's saying Jair isn't a great football player when he's on the field. The problem is he's not on the field that often. And sooner or later, you've got to make that decision. I was very vocal. I would much rather have had Jair Alexander on this team for $6 million. And it's pretty much being confirmed now that the Packers did not match or were not willing to go as high as Baltimore did with the $6 million. So they were probably somewhere around $4 to $5 million that's what Wildy and Tausch said the other day. Is it was definitely I think they said $4 million, but nonetheless, you can understand too, it's more about that progress stopper. Like, hey, we want to make sure that we got guys that are going to be on the field, they're going to be healthy, and it's not going to be something that the day of, the week of, it's going to be a scratch because he couldn't go out there and be on the field. H.E. Solder says, moving on from Stokes and Myers were the biggest 2+ moves. Amen. Think about this. Jair being banged up the way he was, you never knew when he was going to be available, right? He played like less than 50% of the snaps over the last 3 years, if I understood correctly. So you're swapping Stokes and Hobbs. That's an upgrade. You're swapping Myers and Aaron Banks. That's an upgrade, right? Because you're going to kick Elton to center, and Aaron Banks is kind of taking that roster spot that Myers had. I love the way you worded that, Soder. I think I completely agree with that.
Yeah,
totally agree with it. Coach Lynn says, I hope Harmon gets a chance to prove that with all the wide receivers we have. Hey, I'll tell you, Harmon is one, we talked about it last night. He's growing on me. He's growing on me big time. He's showing some veteran leadership. Now, listen, he may not make it out of camp. I think we all understand that.
Yeah.
But there's some value there with the versatility, no doubt. John Johnson says, we got a great locker room. That's key. That's key along with talent. Completely agree with that take. So if you'll notice here, guys, points per play last year, even with your quarterback battling 3 injuries, even with your number one receiver being hobbled pretty much most of the year there, and Christian Watson kind of off and on. Jaden Reed had an ankle injury and a shoulder injury. These guys were banged up. You lost Luke Musgrave pretty much for the season. You lost your, your second or your third round pick in Marshawn Lloyd right out of the gate. You're missing all these pieces on offense, right? And you still finished 8th in the league in points per play at 0.432 points per play. So moving on here, no more moral victories. The Packers were the NFL's youngest team, celebrated for growth. That story's changed. All right, it says GM Brian Gutekunst's bold move scream win now. This isn't about playoffs. It's about the Lombardi Trophy. Here are 4 reasons why 2025 is championship or bust. Number 1, pillar 1, I should say, offensive juggernaut. Jordan Love is the guy. After elite flashes in 2023 with a gritty 2024, he's poised for a top-tier season. His arsenal, electric first-rounder Matthew Golden, a polished deep threat, forces defenses back. Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, and Romeo Doubs form a nightmare receiving core. Third-rounder Savion Williams adds physicality. Tight ends Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft create mismatches, with Kraft's play surpassing Musgrave on the depth chart. Josh Jacobs anchors the ground game, with rookie Marshawn Lloyd's explosiveness keeping defenses guessing. This offense can dominate in countless ways. Just wanted to point out here, yards per play. We talked about points per play. In yards per play, kind of moving the ball down the field, Green Bay actually finished even better than points per play. They finished 5th in the league, Jacob, at 6.1. Only 1/10 of a point per play behind Tampa Bay and San Francisco, 0.2 of a point per play behind Detroit, who everybody talked about was just unbelievable offense, right? 2/10 of a point per play behind them. Of course, Baltimore, pretty good lead there at 6.8.
Yeah, and that really gives you, if you're a optimistic Packer fan, hopefully like myself, I would consider, you look at the way that Green Bay played that 6.1 in 2024. That's a pretty decent improvement over the whole of 2023, which is at 5.7. Then you look at the fact that they were a better away team than a home team. All of this, again, with the injuries and all the stuff that you just talked about with Jordan Love. And people are trying to throw shade on like, oh, he's not as good as the 23 and 3s. I mean, I think that when all things are considered, another good thing that I saw in that interview with Wyatt was I can't remember who it was that asked him, and they said, hey, we've seen how if every single one of you younger guys, and I think he listed off basically every wide receiver, the 2 tight ends, and the guys on this defensive line, guys like Wooden, Kobe, those types of things, if you all are able to play at a level that you are capable of, that we've seen you actually play at, what's the sky for this team? And he's like, the sky's the limit. Like, this is actually a Super Bowl caliber team. And I think that that's something here. What do we always talk about? A Super Bowl caliber team. What's the last piece that you add? Stud wide receiver.
Typically it's wide receiver. Yeah. That's Bill Walsh.
What we do?
Yeah.
What do we do? We got Goldman and we got Savion. So it's like something
and
feels like exactly. And something to me just feels like the front office knows what they have. It's like a guy that's sitting on pocket aces. He's just sitting there grinning all cocky, I feel like that's like Goody and now oh gosh, what's the new guy? Ed Policy. They're just kind of looking at each other like, yeah, let's go.
It's
like,
I'm telling you, man, the window's open. Now they got to go out there and do it. They got to protect the football. We got to win the turnover differential, all those things that we always talk about on game day. But I think the pieces are there. Would I bet the farm that they're going to win the Super Bowl this year? Probably not, but I can see them going deep in the playoffs if everyone stays healthy. That's what's going to be crucial for sure. Another thing to point out here, Jacob, with the passing game, yards per pass attempt, we finished with Love being banged up all year long, and his receivers leading the league in drops, right? We finished 4th in the league at 8.1 yards per pass attempt, literally a top 5 passing offense. So just want to throw that out.
Like you said, it wasn't just the fact that they led the league in drops. It was the worst drop percentage, I believe, for a wide receiver group of the Green Bay Packers in like 20 or 30 years. Like it was really bad. So the fact that we're able to still, like you said, put up a mark of being 4th overall, again, it's just another metric to me, even though it's a negative one, it's showing how good we can be if we have a positive regression in this year.
Yeah. Pillar number 2, strategic reload. Goody targeted needs with impact starters. Guard Aaron Banks, a mauler from the 49ers, bolsters the offensive line, freeing Elton Jenkins to play center. Cornerback Nate Hobbs, a physical, versatile addition, joins Keyshawn Nixon, Carrington Valentine, and Xavier McKinney, upgrading the secondary. These moves signal win now, plugging holes with veterans. We didn't even mention Evan Williams, who's one of the up-and-coming, young stars in this league. I mean, he got finished with, a 72 PFF grade his rookie year last year. It's something else to think about. As Ed Madden says here in the chat, don't forget the penalties, Jacob, right? I mean, that was a huge problem last year as well. Deadfish also said it helps to lead the league in most 20-plus air yard passes. Amen to that. And he had the most completed, too. The ball in the air for 20 yards or more, Jordan Love completed more passes with 20-plus air yards than any quarterback in the league with 24 is what he finished with. So moving along here, pillar number 3, trench dominance. Championships start up front. The Packers O-line, Rasheed Walker, Elton Jenkins, Aaron Banks, Jordan Morgan, Zach Tom are looking to keep Love clean. And while opening lanes for Jacobs, depth like Sean Ryan and second-round pick Anthony Belton protects against injuries. This line's versatility is a fortress built for January. I would love to see those 5 start on the offensive line, Jacob. And then I'd love the thought of Sean Ryan being your swing guard. Somebody gets banged up, a former starter plugs right in and plays. And then, of course, if a tackle gets banged up, you just spent a second-round pick on Anthony Belton to come in there and play that swing tackle position. These are the problems we ran into with Philly. Elton Jenkins gets banged up. He exits the game, and the offensive line fell apart because there just wasn't enough depth there. Now you've got solid depth at the offensive line. I believe that, man. I really do.
Yeah, I agree. And it was easy to see again. Like it doesn't feel like last year was as injury riddled as it really was. I think because a lot of the guys kept their mouths shut, which is, again, something that is admirable. Like, for instance, again, I hate going back to the same in that interview with Devontae Wyatt, he talks about how Kenny Clark admitted that he was playing throughout injury the whole year. And you guys know I've been very critical of a guy like Kenny Clark, but It just shows that the fact that if these guys can stay a little bit healthy, and specifically on this O-line, I mean, I love Rasheed Walker. I wish we could throw him the bag. Obviously it's just probably not in the cards for him being a 7th rounder, for him stepping in and doing as well as he's done. I don't think you could ask more of a 7th rounder. Elton's obviously Elton. I'm a little worried, obviously, about the contract situation and if he has any sort of type of feeling about moving to center. But like you said, dude, that group right there, you got a solid starting 5. And I think you have a solid backup of 8 rotationals. You know what I'm saying? Like, so,
absolutely.
I'm more excited to see Anthony Belton, I think, more than anyone, just because he's just kind of, he seems like such a, I hate saying mauler because that feels like he's only a one-trick pony type guy, but he does a lot, man.
He's a hoss, dude. He is so big, so big. Ed Madden in the chat says, we know we can play better. We've seen our team play better in 23. Completely agree with that. That's, I mean, the end of 23 there, right? The Cowboys game is where we peaked, right? That just felt like, wow, that's what this team can be, on their best day. Now, the problem is your best day doesn't come often, Jacob. So you got to get scrappy. You got to protect the football. You got to be able to win those ugly games. Typically, that's who comes out the other side there in the playoffs with the Lombardi in hand. I want to point this out. Yards per rush attempt last year, we finished tied for 7th at 4.7. We were 1/10 of a yard per rush attempt away from being in the top 5 in yards per carry, essentially, is what it came down to. So Josh Jacobs, unbelievable performance. Emmanuel Wilson, one of the most underrated number 2 running backs in the league. And the reality is Marshawn Lloyd is probably going to be better than Emmanuel Wilson. That's wild to think about.
Well, I also think you can't turn away from the fact that Chris Brooks was somebody that clearly just came out of nowhere. And Matt LaFleur was like, all right, we'll throw him into like game critical situations. I remember certain other Packers podcasters or analysts, whatever you want to call them, like poo-pooing, like, why is Chris Brooks out there? Because he trusts him. Because Chris, like, that's crazy to me that we had, like you said, even with Marshawn Lloyd, a guy that I am very excited to see. If you guys want to have a fun time, it's the off season, and you got really nothing to do, go watch some of his highlights from USC. The guy is different, dude. He is different. He can throw it into that final gear in a way where it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Chuck Jaggers in the chat says, James Jones said it best, quote, we never won a second Super Bowl because we all decided to have our worst game the same game. And talking about that Seattle game, I'm sure it's the first thing that came to mind for me, right? I mean, that is such a accurate statement there, Chuck, for sure, man. That's a great pull there. All right, so yards per rush attempt we carried. Let's go to pillar 4. Efficient defense. The Packers defense, once mediocre, has transformed.
Can I ask a quick question, Clayton?
Yeah, man.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What was the deal with the names being all messed up?
Dude, I have no idea, man. I'm telling you, there's wacky stuff that goes on.
YouTube,
right? Yeah, it's
yeah, now they're all back to normal.
Right. Yeah, I can't figure YouTube out, dude. I don't understand it, man. It's so it's just such a strange place. Like the stuff that we get dinged for sometimes is wild. It's just like I don't understand why that's an issue, but that's a topic for another day. I don't know what was up with the names. And those listening on the pod are going, what are y'all talking about? Everybody's names in the chat just all of a sudden had an at in front of them and they changed them up. I was like, I thought everybody was messing with me. I was making jokes about it. Like everybody's just changing their name to confuse me. That's not hard to do, obviously. So pillar number 4, efficient defense. The Packers defense, once mediocre, has transformed under Jeff Hafley. His 4-3 front, led by Rashawn Gary and Lucas Van Ness, finished second in run defense while settling in the 8th spot against the pass. Devontae White is ready to dominate inside. In the secondary, Xavier McKinney roams deep. Nate Hobbs adds physicality, and Carrington Valentine's consistency shines. This unit is confident, aggressive, and ready to dominate, even with the departure of the often injured Jair Alexander. Now, the bust part here, the bust factor, I should say, Jacob, the schedule's brutal. With tough AFC North, NFC East, and NFC North matchups, youth brings energy but also pressure. Can they handle the target? Health is critical. Injuries to Love, Jacobs, or Gary could derail everything. Conclusion, the Packers have a superstar quarterback, explosive offense, dominant offensive line, and aggressive defense. The moves are made. The scheme is set. It's Super Bowl or bust in 2025. When you look at the schedule here, man, let's just run down it real quick. Week 1, Lions at home. Week 2, the Commanders at home. That's 4 days apart. 4 days later, we play the Commanders. Then week 3 on the road to with the Browns. I think that's a very winnable game. Week 4, Sunday Night Football on the road against the Cowboys. They're going to be looking to bounce back, but I feel pretty good about the way the Packers perform in Dallas. Week 5, you got your bye. Everybody hates that, right? Week 6, you got the Bengals at home. Week 7 and 8, you go on the road against the Cardinals and then the Steelers. Week 9, you're back home against the Panthers. Week 10, you're back home against the Eagles on Monday Night Football. That's going to be a hell of a game. I cannot wait for that. Week 11, at the Giants. Week 12, the Vikings at home. 13, you're back at the Lions. Week 14, you got the Bears at home. 15, you go out west and play the Broncos in the Rockies. And then week 16, you got the Bears right back. It's weird that just literally 1 week apart, you play the Bears twice. Pretty wild there. And then week 17 versus the Ravens at home. And then you wrap up the season on the road in Minnesota there. So Ed Madden points out Washington has to travel on a short week. That's good news, right? So there you go. What do you think about that schedule there, Jacob? It is going to be kind of a tough road to hoe there with the AFC North, man. You having to play, obviously, the Ravens down toward the end of the year. So I'm just glad that one's at Lambeau. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie. This would not be my ideal schedule by any means. If you had to just this wouldn't even be in probably my top. It'd be in my bottom 10% if I could pick a schedule, to be honest. I mean, everything about it is just a little bit suspect. Even if all right, you consider the actual quote unquote primetime games, I think that there are other games that are at the 3 o'clock and the 12 o'clock slot that basically can be considered primetime because of the matchup. Mm-hmm. You start looking at some of these, obviously we don't have to start talking about how much the Steeler game is going to mean, right?
I'm so excited about that.
How much I know I am and I'm not. It's the weirdest thing in the world. It's like going to the divorce. Am I going home with mom or dad?
Which one would Aaron be? Would he be mom or dad, you think?
Oh gosh, he'd probably
put it on the ticker. Put it in the chat. Let's get a poll question.
Nope. And then honestly, even I'm looking at teams like the Cardinals, the Giants, the Broncos, teams that people that are basing even the Panthers, dude. Everything, like we talk about how certain players turn it on the back end of the game. Bryce Young looked really good in the back half of the season, specifically the final 4 to 6 games. So I don't think that it's smart or wise to look at a current schedule and base it off of last year's success. I think that's absolutely kind of insane. So a lot of people that go through here, and don't get me wrong, we all went through this together as an exercise and tried to figure out what our win-loss record would be. And I really do feel like we may have been a little biased. So I'm looking at this schedule and I'm thinking now more of honing it down to being I hate saying it, a 10 to 11 win team, but still getting in the playoffs, still doing well. Just, to just say we're getting 14, that's so much more tough than it happens.
Yeah, and I want to say last year, if I remember correctly, I said 9 to 12 wins. This year I said 10 to 13, somewhere in that range is what I'm seeing. I see 10 as the floor unless injuries just riddle this team and the wheels not only come off, but they pass us up on the road there. So
what do you think about this comment from Bates real quick? Where he says the NFL needs to put bye weeks mid-schedule for all teams. They can do that. There's a way that they could do that easily.
Just 1 week apart, right?
Yeah. Just the fact that they're all scattered from week 5 up until week 11 or something that to me is such a crazy advantage, but maybe I'm just crazy.
No, I completely understand, man. They do a lot of things, but Bates, I think they do it this way just to get us talking about it. What are we doing right now? We're talking about it.
That's
as what was it? Jerry Jones said, all publicity is good publicity, right? Even when things go wrong, they're talking about your team. And he said it just like that too. He said, they're talking about your team. So, all right, let's move on to the next topic. I'm excited about this. Before we do, if you would do that YouTube stuff for us, hit that like button, hit subscribe. If you're new here, welcome into the PTA family. We go live pretty much daily. We cover all different types of topics on the daily. We do post-game shows, in-season pre-game shows. We got you covered. We're going to probably do some watch parties this year as well. That's been highly, highly requested by the listeners. Listen, we're not experts here. We're not insiders. You already know that by the sound and the accent of my voice. But what we are is just like you, we're fans. We're in here just chalking it up, talking Packers, trying to get down to what happened, why did it happen, and the truth of covering the Packers. So we appreciate y'all making us a part of it.
You're talking watch parties live during the game?
bro.
Oh, I won't be able. We'll get canceled.
Always
We'll
come
get
back
canceled.
to. Yeah. I think the people that I can do it, and I'm not trying to sound cocky. I can be calm as a I'm cool as a cucumber during the game, right? I can do that. But I know Jacob wouldn't do it. Tim will be throwing something through the TV. Emilio would probably have to be on the sauce to be able to handle it. So I don't want it to turn into something where we got people in here pissed off the whole time because the Packers are losing by 2 points in the third quarter. You know what I mean? So, but again, I like talking ball with everybody in the chat, man. It's been a blast. So, all right. Next thing here. Sounds like a good time, guys. Clint says, yeah. I don't know, man. Careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Why the Packers don't need to trade for a star defender. You know, what did we hear the last 2 years, Jake? Go get Myles Garrett. Go get Max Crosby. Go get all these.
Max Crosby.
Yeah. All these just superstar defenders, right? Listen, are they great players? Yes. Would the Packers be better with Myles Garrett on it? They would. There's no doubt about it. To the tune of, 30 to 50 million per on average. What are we talking about here? Right? Like, you've got to get to the point, and I want you to look at where some of these teams are ranked defensively that have those superstar players. And I know the argument typically turns into, well, if they were on the Packers, it'd be different because we got other pieces in place and, ifs and buts, candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas, right? Let's break it down here and why I believe the Packers don't need or didn't need to trade for a star defender, right? Packers Twitter and sports radio are buzzing. Green Bay needs a blockbuster trade for a star defender. Fans claim a game-wrecking pass rusher guarantees a Super Bowl. Classic Madden GM thinking. Chasing big names, tossing draft picks. But what if the Packers already have a championship defense? Here's why they're built to win now and why a splashy trade would be a mistake. Let's hit the super chat and we'll dive into the information. Chuck Jaggers with the super. Thank you, buddy. Says, at the end, can we get a quick 53-man prediction? Well, there is no such thing as a quick 53-man prediction.
Not right now, dude. Well, we could try it, but
yeah, we could attempt it, Chuck. We just have to tally it up and everything. We'll go over the depth chart, maybe talk about a couple players
and a mock.
Oh my God! See, y'all trying to get me divorced this evening, man. Unbelievable. I'm on her good side right now too, man. So much so she got me this huge autographed Josh Jacobs jersey that's framed with pictures of him and stuff. Absolutely awesome. Came home yesterday, surprised with that. She'll throw that thing in the front yard if we do a mock draft tonight, I promise.
Did she get suckered by that Pristine? Don't get me wrong. Pristine Auction is a reputable company, and I love them very much. And if they ever want to sponsor the show, again, they'd be lovely. And you could use promo code Packernet Podcast. I'm just saying, because they've been sending out text messages to me every day for the last 2 weeks being like, hey bro, you got $50 in your account that's sitting there of free. No, it's I didn't put my money there. They just said that you got free money sitting there. So
just tell them to cut a check, mail it to the house.
Right.
So, all right. So yards per rush attempt allowed last year, guys. Green Bay was tied for second, allowing only 4 yards per rush attempt. Denver had the same 4.0. Baltimore was the only team better at 3.6. The roster is built. Championship defenses start in the trenches, and Brian Gutekunst has invested heavily. The defensive front includes Rashawn Gary, 2019 first-round pick, Devontae Wyatt, 2022 first-round pick, Kenny Clark, 2016 first-round pick, and Lucas Van Ness, a 2023 first-round pick. 4 first-round picks. That's deliberate, not assigned to trade for someone else's star. Gary on a $96 million extension is a monster at 27, leading the Packers in sacks and defensive line run stops. Clark anchored the league's second-best run defense while playing all season with a foot injury. Wyatt's finally exploding, finishing with a pass rush win rate in the 90 percentile amongst interior defensive linemen. And Van Ness is poised for a breakout after a great finish in 2024, breaking through the 11% pressure rate mark. The line isn't desperate, finishing not in sacks. It's game ready with Wyatt and Van Ness best football in front of them. Think about that, Jacob. Like Devontae Wyatt, his pressure rate was through the roof in terms of, across defensive tackle. You look at it, you see a 9% on NFL Pro, but when you compare that amongst defensive tackles across the league, he's towards the top. Like he's truly is a force in the pass rush game. The problem is he struggles in the run defense a little bit in the past. He cleaned that up a lot last year. I mean, a lot. You didn't see him just running past the ball carrier last year. You could tell that Hafley really tried to harness these guys a little bit and protect against the run. It showed up, man, finishing second in run defense last year.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of insane too. Like when you sit there and like you said, people yelled, "Oh, we got to get TJ Watt, we got to get this guy, we got to get that guy." Well, guess what? We have, like they just said, 4 first-round picks. Now, are they performing as the way that we would hope they would? No, but that's why you don't cut bait after 1 or 2 seasons with these guys. They have the capability. I think they have now what I think is a way better. Is it Covington, Demarcus Covington, if I'm not mistaken, the new defensive line coach? I got a lot of hope in him, guys. And I got a lot of hope in the fact that even, again, Devontae Wyatt said he was playing hurt for a lot of that year. Kenny Clark playing hurt a lot of that year. Rashawn Gary, we don't know exactly what they were asking him to do. We saw it on the back stretch. Guys like Van Ness, guys like my boy Cox, they were coming in and they were ready to go, baby. Just saying. And they really were.
Unbelievable. Ron Sample in the chat says Watt is possibly asking for 40+ million. What team is paying it? And that's what we're hearing is I think they're closing in on contract extension now for TJ Watt. 40 million per for a guy that no one wants to hear this. But according to NFL Pro, and you can go watch every single snap of the statistics that backs this up, TJ Watt had a less pressure rate percentage than both Lucas Van Ness and Rashawn Gary last year.
Yeah.
And then you're going to go trade premium picks for him and pay him 40 million plus. Like if you were upset about them extending Rashawn Gary and whatever his cap hit now is, whatever 20, 25 million, 23 million per, bro, you're not going to enjoy TJ Watt. He may still have some gas in the tank, but last year is kind of one of those, whoa, maybe this is the start. He's going to start to decline now. It could happen. So again, I just don't see giving up premium picks and 40+ million, as Ron Sample says here. I think he agrees. So yards per rush attempt, we talked about that, right? Yards per pass attempt allowed. The Packers finished tied for 8th at 6.4 yards per pass attempt allowed. Jacob, the problem last year was you couldn't keep Jair Alexander on the field. Well, without Jair Alexander on the field, look at what the pass defense did. I mean, you're talking about a legit top 10 pass defense with a top 3 run defense. You've got all the pieces you need. Now you got to go out there. You got to scheme. You got to not outsmart yourself, and you got to be prepared for the adjustments that the rest of the National Football League is going to make, having a full year of Jeff Hafley's defensive tape. That's why I say I see them taking a slight step back possibly, but it ain't going to raise alarm bells. You're still going to be hovering right around a top 10 defense. They may skyrocket to a top 3 defense overall, both pass defense and run defense. That could happen. I'm just based off of my experience watching the NFL, I think there'll be a slight step back, but there's no reason to go sell the freaking farm, trade away premium picks, and pay 40 million plus for someone like a Myles Garrett or a TJ Watt. Right. Myles Garrett, you can talk yourself into that.
Yeah.
TJ Watt, I just can't right now, not based off what we've seen last year.
Can I push back a bit?
Yeah,
and I'll give just a 3-point argument as to why I think that they will, in my opinion, be more likely to be better. I would just say the improvement on the defensive line with guys like Colby Wood and Carl Brooks coming into their 2nd, 3rd, 4th year, whatever it is. I can't remember. I think it's their 3rd. Rashawn Gary is Rashawn Gary. He's going to do what he does. Guys like Brenton Cox, guys like Lucas Van Ness that are going to take that next step. But I look at the linebacker room. We've talked about it multiple times, how Quay and Mr. Cooper only started 1 game together, guys. Only 1 game together. I see that being an absolute difference maker. You add in a 3rd linebacker, whether it be Hopper or Isaiah. And then the fact that, like you said, that safety room, I don't think it can get worse with Xavier McKinney the way that he is, and with Evan Williams taking a step. And if he doesn't, then it means either Bullard or the guy that's who am I trying to remember? He doesn't exist.
Zane Anderson.
Zane Anderson. He's real, guys. He's real. And I really do think that if we get even 1 or 2 of these kind of known cornerbacks stepping up, whether that be Micah Robinson, a Kalen King, whatever you want to do, an Nate Hobbs, if it's Bullard that all of a sudden can play in the slot and be decent, like I'm telling y'all, I think that there's the reason that this could be a top 5, top 3 defense, maybe even top 2. That's all I'll say about that.
United Bates in the chat says, Greg, Crosby 3-year, $106.5 million contract. Deal includes $91.5 million guaranteed and an average annual value of $35.5 million. By the way, he played 96% of the snaps for the Vegas Raiders last year. Rashawn Gary played 59% of the snaps for the Packers. They both finished with 7.5 sacks last year. Keep that in mind. If Gary had played the same amount of snaps, pass rush snaps, as Max Crosby, he would have finished with far more sacks than Max Crosby had last year. This is where people go, well, he was injured. Okay, let's make excuses for everyone but Green Bay Packers. Let's go do that, right? They say the same thing about TJ Watt. It's like, hell of a coincidence, these guys that everybody wants to trade for, all of a sudden, it's just because they're banged up. All right, got you. H.E. Soder makes a great point. He says, one more boundary cornerback would be nice, but they can address that later if the current backups don't make the jump. I completely agree with that because when you look at Carrington Valentine and what he did last year, he looks like he's poised to step in as a solid number 2 corner. He could possibly turn into a number 1 corner. I have a hard time drinking that Kool-Aid with him being a 7th-round pick. It's so rare that happens. Not that it's impossible, but I see him as a very good number 2 corner. So they're probably, hey, let's take a look at him. Let's see how Keyshawn does on the outside this time. Nate Hobbs will be playing in the slot. All those things are coming into factor. Like you said, Javon Bullard, I don't want to say we because it's more me. When you hear me talk about Bullard, it sounds like I've written him off. And I don't mean to come across like that. It's just looking up last year, it was like that was the guy we were excited about. Evan Williams took the safety job from him. And honestly, he played better in the slot. Now you bring in Nate Hobbs. It kind of feels like Bullard's been pushed on the back burner. But him being a former 2nd-round pick playing in the SEC did awesome things in the slot and safety at Georgia. Don't be surprised if all of a sudden this year he emerges as a freaking superstar. That could happen too. It could. So a great point there, though, by H.E. Soder. Appreciate you, buddy. Moving on. The blockbuster already happened. While fans dreamed of trades, Gutekunst landed Xavier McKinney, the offseason's biggest defensive splash in 2024. The ex-Giant safety is a true star, playing at an all-pro level and transforming the secondary. Quarterbacks fear him. Per Jeff Hafley, quote, he's a pro's pro. Pro Football Focus grades McKinney among the best safeties. He plays deep, he covers elite tight ends, and tackles at the line of scrimmage. His $68 million deal looks like a steal, and he costs 0 draft picks. Again, 0 draft picks.
That's crazy.
This is the game changer fans wanted. Xavier McKinney, man, we can't talk about him enough, Jacob. The things that he did for this defense last year was phenomenal. Again, when you look at the yards per pass attempt allowed, and we'll get to the takeaways here in a minute, he pretty much did that single-handedly with, I think 8 interceptions last year. Yeah. So that's when fans are calling for trades, Goody already did it. Yeah. Like he signed Xavier McKinney, one of the best safeties in the entire league. And we were all over it here because he was at the top of our shopping list, and I ain't going to BS you. When we filled out that list, we'd like to get this player, this player, this player. I seen Xavier McKinney. I'm like, it's never going to happen.
Never going to happen.
I'm not going to get my hopes up. And it was day one. Xavier McKinney's a Packer. What? Let's go live. Strike it up.
Yeah, and you know what's even more crazy is everybody that these negative Packer fans that are like, Goody doesn't know what he's doing, blah, 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 blah. Think about if you're a freaking Giants fan. Somehow you let one of the top 3 safeties walk out of there without getting any draft picks and very little capital, if anything whatsoever. It's just, to me, like, come on, guys. You have to look around the league. I think we all sometimes get trapped in our own little bubbles. I know Ryan talks about this quite a bit, about how just, like Packer fans are looking through a just kind of a lens where it's all we see is what happens with us. But you have to take a step back, realize there's 31 other teams, 31 other GMs, 31 other organizations that are making moves. And you can't just put them up like to each individual transaction and be like, oh, Goody sucked compared to that. It's like, no, look at the totality of everything. Like, I don't know. It's here. Chucks has a great thing. Things could be a lot worse. I could be a Bears fan.
Exactly. That was a good impersonation there, by the way.
Let's try and do my best, Jair.
Can't play it anymore with Jair. Ed Madden says these guys are young. A lot of them are still growing. It's a great point, man. Great point. That's the thing, too, is like you could tell that was what Goody was trying to do. You get Jordan Love in the lineup there in 2023, right? Let's see what we got in him. Let's put a bunch of young talent around him. All right, let's see who emerges. Now let's go slap a couple veteran free agents in. You get Xavier McKinney, you get Josh Jacobs in the following year. Now you go get Aaron Banks, you get Nate Hobbs. You just kind of put pieces in place. Both of those guys were Pro Bowl players in Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney. If we're going off a precedent and what Goody's done in free agency, he did the same damn thing with Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith and Adrian Amos, if you'll remember.
And Devondre Campbell.
Yeah. Exactly. So if you're really
Sewell
going to go,
Douglas.
if you're going to go off precedent, one thing Goody has done better than drafting is sign free agents. That's why when they signed Aaron Banks and when they signed Nate Hobbs, I got to step back and go, okay, they see something here because boy, they've hit freaking home runs on these free agent signings. So this is another stat that people don't want to acknowledge: sacks per game. The Green Bay Packers finished ninth, tied for ninth in the league at 2.6 sacks per game. Only 1/10 of a sack per game behind being the seventh best. They're tied with the Chargers and the Philadelphia Eagles. Jacob, the Eagles had this all-world defensive front, right? They averaged 2.7 sacks per game. The Packers averaged 2.6 sacks per game. Like, I'm telling you, there's not enough people that realized that last year because there were people in the sports media painting this picture that this defensive line and this pass rush was just absolutely horrible. It's crazy. The Hafley factor. Fans long complained about a passive defense. Jeff Hafley's arrival changes that. His aggressive 4-2-5 nickel scheme harnesses the front, letting Gary, Clark, White, and Van Ness hunt while not allowing huge chunk plays from scrambling quarterbacks and running backs. No more read and react. Players fire off with a one-gap approach while staying gap sound against the run. The defense plays faster and more confident. Hafley's DB expertise ties the pass rush and the secondary together with McKinney ball hawking and rookie sensation Edgerrin Cooper shooting his shot underneath. This unit is built to dominate. We're half 3/4 of the way through this article on the defense, and we haven't even talked about Edgerrin Cooper. This dude's. I'm almost to the point. If we come out in the first quarter of the season, Jacob, and he picks up where he left off last year, I'm going to start calling him generational. If people could say Caleb Williams' cheeks are generational, I'm sorry, man. Edgerrin Cooper is not getting enough shine. He isn't. And I understand the reality that Edgerrin Cooper could take a step back. That could happen, right? That's always possible. Sophomore slump, we see it all the time in the NFL. But if he just reemerges or emerges again this year, right where he left off last year, I'm telling you, man, earmark it. This dude is going to be dying. You're talking about Fred Warner type football at the Mike Backer position for years to come, especially in a nickel 4-2-5 where the Mike and Will is very interchangeable. So,
yeah. What do you think about the fact that I don't know, man? You know how like people say that tight end's the hardest position to learn on the offense, just because there's so much. You got to learn. You got to learn everything. You got to learn the blocking schemes, obviously the run game, the passing game. You have to know everything. The middle linebacker to me just seems, other than maybe safety, one of those things where if you just come in off, I don't mean off the street, but out of the college game, and you click like the way he clicked, it does seem like it'd be a very hard, like if you're that good that quickly, to take such a step back where people would consider it like him not like at least an all pro, a pro bowler, or like a very good player. It just seems very unlikely, doesn't it?
It does, man. I completely agree. Yeah, and you're right with tight end. Tight end is one of those things that you've got to understand every check. You got to understand every protection. You got to understand every route, especially in an offense where outside of the F or the slot in Matt LaFleur's offense, that Y is moving, and the U as well. Like the Y and the U. The Y is your traditional Y tight end, right? Your attached tight end. The U is a little more of a utility type guy. He can go in the backfield. He can, split out wide as well, as we've seen Ben Sims do from time to time. They got to understand the choice route aspects. They got to understand the pass blocking. And at any moment, Jordan could check to a play like he did in Dallas, where you're telling someone to stay in and block, right? And that tight end's got to be prepared to understand, do I play with outside leverage or inside leverage? Who's the Mike? Like if Jordan comes to the line and you were gonna run a post route as the Y, and then he comes in and like he did in Dallas, and he checks to an empty set, and he tells the tight end to stay in and block. And then the center or Jordan Love or both will identify the Mike. That's going to set the protection. Now the tight end's got to understand what all that means. That's why rookies come in the league and their head is spinning. That's why people like George Kittle are so rare. And I'm telling you, man, I think Tucker Kraft is this close. He's got to go out there and do it, but he's this close to putting himself into that top 5 tight end category. Really do.
Dude, if I had to make a if you want to call it a bold prediction, I think Tucker Kraft is going to be one of the best tight. I think he's going to be held up there in the league at some point with the George Kittles, with the I hate even saying Brock Bowers just because he's already, but I mean, that guy came on the scene, right? I feel like Tucker Kraft he's too smart and he's too physical and he's too humble in like the best way. Like he's cocky is all, but he's humble at the same time, like just from his roots, from his beginning, from where he grew up, from what happened with his father, from what happened with his college career, being offered, if I'm not mistaken, he was offered to go to Alabama and he's like, nah, I'm going to stick it out here in South Dakota, and then gets on the scene. And again, I think my favorite things to watch is Tucker Kraft highlights from last year, because you just see this guy when he's mic'd up. I mean, he's just a teammate, and he's the funnest dude that I've ever been around. And I also saw a picture of him, and I can't remember who it was. Is it Bert Kreischer that takes his shirt off all the time where they're at the Beer Olympics? And I'm just like, that's my tight end, dude. That's my guy.
It's funny. We're sitting here breaking down the defense, and we can't get away from Tucker Kraft.
I know. I'm sorry.
Awesome. No, I love it, dude. I love it. Tucker, he's one of my favorite players, man. Him and Edgerrin Cooper are just going to be.
I honestly think those are my two favorite players. If I could take them out like on a duck boat and go hunting, you know how fun that'd be?
Yeah. You might not make it home, to be honest.
No.
But back to the defense, points per play allowed last year. This is the scoring metric I use, and I'll tell you why. I've been very fortunate to be plugged in with some of the gambling community and kind of get their take on what are the most important things. What are the statistics that people key in on the most in terms of putting money on the line and trying to determine win-loss ratio, all those things. Points per play, yards per play are two of the most important metrics to the gambling community. All right. Points per play are really simple. If you go to points per game, right, that can get skewed a little bit. But points per play is showing you on a per play basis how many points, right, that teams put up. And in this case, on defense, points per play allowed. Green Bay finished 5th in the league at 20.0 points per play allowed. The only teams better than them, the Minnesota Vikings with that B-flow defense, the Denver Broncos at 19.0, the Chargers at 18.5, and the Philadelphia Eagles, Vic Fangio himself, 18.1. So you literally – one of the 4 teams, the only 4 teams that were better than you in scoring defense last year, won the freaking Super Bowl. And the other one in Minnesota, another one, won 14 games. So the defenses, I'm telling you, man, it's stout. The cost of a trade, we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. We'll hit on it again. Trading for a Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, or TJ Watt top, it's a ransom. Multiple first-rounders plus a young talent like Van Ness. It guts draft capital needed for depth and starters like linemen or receivers. Financially, it's a nightmare. A massive contract cripples cap space. See the TJ Watt rumors of $40 million plus. It risks chemistry too. This young team, fresh off back-to-back playoff runs, grows together. A big ego could disrupt that. Football's a team sport. Chasing one star weakens the 53-man roster, especially when the injury bug bites. See Jair Alexander. Who was the biggest personality we had on the team? It was Jair, right? To the point that he made himself captain right before a game and got freaking suspended. And then him and the training staff and the coaches aren't on the same page with the injury, right? And now you kind of parted ways with that, right? You parted ways with, okay, he's in another team now. And then you're going to go out and try to trade for someone else who's going to come in with another big ego, and they're the top dog getting paid. Think about this too. It was a different time, but if you turn back the clock and you go back to the Lombardi days, Jim Taylor, one of the things that caused them to have a falling out with the Packers and Vince Lombardi, the great running back Jim Taylor, was they went out and they signed 2 rookies. It was Jim Grabowski and Donnie Anderson, if I remember correctly. And they called them the Gold Dust Twins because they were worth over $1 million. And here you got, and this is how some of the other players, I can't remember who was on the America's game that was telling us. It might have been Jerry Kramer, maybe Dave Robinson or somebody. But he said, you got these guys that haven't played a single snap for the Green Bay Packers. And they step in and they're making more than someone who's just spilled their guts on the field for, 7 years, 8 years, 10 years, right? That's going to upset the locker room a little bit. It is. So just something else that kind of comes into play in that regard as well. The Packers don't need a star defender. McKinney's already top 3, maybe even the best safety in the league. The D-line with 4 first-rounders is fearsome. Hafley's scheme maximizes talent. This young, deep defense isn't one piece away. It's already win. It's ready to win a championship right now. I could not agree more with it, Jacob. Again, you don't have to have the best defense in the league, but if you're hovering within the top 10 and you protect the football on offense, that if we had protected the ball better on offense last year, I think we win another 2 games. That's just me personally. If you don't have to cut the turnovers in half. Just cut them by a third. You're probably winning 2 extra games. I mean, we pointed it out. We broke down some of those scores within the division. We lost by less than 3 points on a couple of those games where we lost the turnover differential too. If you win that turnover differential, you win that game.
Yeah, I think you're being pretty conservative there. I think that's probably, more like 3-4, who knows how many games, because, when we broke it down play by play. And, I think this is something I kind of highlighted just a little bit earlier, that, like they say right here, like this defense isn't, 1 star away. They've got it right there. This, again, right here in this little blurb, they don't talk about Cooper. You know what I mean? Like, they don't talk about certain guys that could be absolutely stepping up. And, I really do think, guys, that don't be surprised if we do have another top 5 defense. And again, I hate looking back in the past and everything like that, but the one thing that I think could have maybe solidified Aaron Rodgers' career is that it's defense. If we had the type of defenses we've been having lately, how many more games does Aaron Rodgers win, man? I mean, and in pinpoint situations.
So true. Special teams.
It's special teams as well. It really, that one's probably harder to don't do this to me, Respect Oranges. Come on. Special teams, though, honestly, that would be another one where it'd be tough to look back and see, well, what could have been. I swear to God, I'm going to get the butt tat. It's just taking me a minute. I'm not afraid of getting tattoos for no reason. Trust me.
Take your time, man. You got to get the right one. You know what I'm saying? There's something else in there I have marked. They asked if that was Jair picking that pass off. That's not. That's Xavier McKinney picking it off. Right there. Yeah. So just to wanted to point that out. Greg asked if that was Jair making the pick, but that's McKinney there. So, all right, there you go. There's your defensive breakdown. Who was it that asked for the 53-man? Chuck Jaggers. Chuck, I'm going to do this, man. We're out of time tonight. We're going to do that tomorrow. Okay. I'm going to make a note here, and we're going to do a depth chart 53-man, way too early prediction, and we'll go through. And what we'll do to use as the catalyst is we'll use as an outline, I should say, the 2024 initial 53-man roster to kind of show they kept this many receivers, this many running backs, this many quarterbacks, and we'll do an extensive breakdown there. It'll be a lot of fun. So thank you for that super chat, Chuck. We'll do that tomorrow. Jacob, you got anything else you want to hit on before we wrap up, man?
No, I think that it'd been a fun situation to get into, but I actually want to take a minute and look at it, like you said, compared to last year. I think that's a good way to do it. Every situation is different. Every year is a little different. So the biggest, obviously, one to me, and you guys can throw it in the chat real quick before we leave here, is what positional group do you suspect will be the most contested? It has to be wide receiver, doesn't it? Like, it has to be.
Man, I'll tell you, you talking about the it's going to be the toughest decision. Is that what you're talking about, Jacob?
Yeah.
Trim it down. Yeah, wide receiver comes to mind.
DB in some sort of way.
Yeah, I could see maybe corner being a little bit tough too. Not that it's like overly deep. It's just you kind of got several guys there on the bottom half of that cornerback room that you're like, oh, help safety. Safety's tough for me because Zane Anderson played great last year. Evan Williams is solid. You're not going to get rid of Javon Bullard, nor does anybody want to, because he's a second-round pick. You got Xavier McKinney, right? So you got 4 right there. You're going to have to carry 5 to have Oladapo. Everybody comment now, long snapper.
Hey, Coach, finally a gentleman, an actual scholar in the chat.
Yeah, that's strong, man.
Lineman.
I think you're right, Coach. I think you're right. Yeah.
Ron, another one. That's a real one. Thank you, Ron. Gosh, tell you what.
Respect Oranges. Rehydrate those victims, Daryl. It's hot out there. All right, that's it. But that being said, we're going to get out of here. Thanks, Respect Oranges. You ruined the whole show. Appreciate you guys and gals. This was a lot of fun. We'll be back tomorrow night, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. We'll get in here. We'll talk some 53-man roster prediction. We'll probably have another topic or two as well. I'm sure the other guys will be back. I know Emilio's tied up big time right now. Getting ready to tie the knot, as a matter of fact. That's right around the corner here.
Hey, happy birthday, Jordan.
Yeah, exactly. And Tim is also, doing way more important things than hanging out in here with us. So we'll see you guys tomorrow night. Thanks, everybody. Hit that like button on the way out. Sub if you're new here. We appreciate everybody being a part of it. The chat was straight fire tonight. Thank you, Larry. Always good to see you in here, Larry. Thank you so much for swinging by, buddy. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. And go Pack, go.
Here we go. We're out.
Bye, guys.